All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
You bet.
Today we're tackling John von Neumann. The name might ring a bell, the guy behind the computer architecture we use every day, but hold on, there's way more to him than just that. We've got some fascinating stuff from quantum formalism. Their marketing materials are always a gold mine, and an ebook that dives into his influence on quantum mechanics. It's going to be wild. You see, von Neumann was this incredible math whiz. But here's the kicker. He also had this crazy need for speed. Apparently, the man loved fast cars.
Really?
Yeah, it makes you wonder how those two sides of his personality, the intense focus of a mathematician and the thrill-seeking of a speed demon, how did they fit together?
It's amazing how these brilliant minds can be so complex. It really shows how multifaceted people can be.
Exactly. And his work is all over the place in fields you wouldn't expect. Like, how does a mathematician end up shaping computer science A&D game theory?
Yeah, no, right? It's mind-boggling.
So today's journey will take us from his early life in Budapest, through his groundbreaking work in math and quantum mechanics, and finally to his broader legacy that still impacts us today. Buckle up. First stop, Budapest in the early 1900s. Picture this, a city bursting with intellectual energy, a hub for some of the most brilliant minds in Europe. They even called some of these folks the Martians of science. Get it? Like,
Yeah.
their ideas were so out there, so advanced, they seemed to come from another planet. And guess what? John von Neumann was right there among them. Now, here's the thing. His upbringing wasn't exactly the struggling genius stereotype we often imagine. His family was well off. He was speaking multiple languages as a kid. It makes you wonder if that early exposure to different cultures and ways of thinking played a role in shaping his incredible mind.
Absolutely. Budapest at that time was a real crossroads of European culture and thought. That environment must have been incredibly stimulating, especially for someone as intellectually curious as von Neumann.
I found this little tidbit about von Neumann's dad. He really wanted him to go into business. Can you imagine?
Oh, the classic parental pressure.
Yeah. Right. Thank goodness someone managed to convince him otherwise. But seriously, think about those family dinners, trying to explain to your parents that theoretical math is a real career path.
I can totally see that happening. It's the age-old struggle between passion and practicality. But thankfully for us and for the world, von Neumann's passion won out.
So young von Neumann ends up at this super prestigious school, the Lutheran Gymnasium. This place was known for attracting some of the brightest students in the country. And guess who he meets there? Eugene Wigner, another future scientific superstar. It's like a breeding ground for genius.
It makes you think about the impact of those early connections, right?
Yeah.
Being surrounded by such brilliant minds must have been incredibly motivating.
Absolutely. Iron sharpens iron, as they say. But hey, things weren't always smooth sailing for von Neumann. Remember how I mentioned his family was pretty wealthy? Well, when the Communist Revolution hit Hungary in 1919, they literally had to flee to Austria.
Wow, that's intense. It's a stark reminder that even the most brilliant minds can't escape the turmoil of history.
And even when they returned to Budapest a few years later, they faced some pretty nasty anti-Semitic backlash, which is just tragic. It really reflects the turbulent political climate of that era. But amidst all this chaos and upheaval, here's a moment that I think many of us can relate to. Von Neumann starts his university studies with chemistry. It seems like he made a bit of a compromise with his dad, choosing a more practical field, at least initially.
It's that push and pull we were talking about earlier between what we're truly passionate about and what's expected of us. It's a universal experience.
Totally.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Even while he was studying chemistry, his mathematical genius couldn't be contained. Get this, he published his first math paper at the age of 19.
19. That's unheard of.
Yep.
A clear sign that he was destined for greatness.
And this is where his seemingly separate paths, chemistry and that early math talent, start to converge. At the time, there was this brand new field emerging called functional analysis.
Oh yeah, functional analysis. A pretty abstract area of math.
It is. But guess what? It turned out to be absolutely crucial for later developments in quantum mechanics. It's like von Neumann had this incredible foresight, this ability to see how seemingly unrelated areas could connect and lead to groundbreaking discoveries.
He was always a few steps ahead of everyone else, wasn't he? It's amazing.
Now let's shift gears a bit and step into the world of physics during this time. It's the early days of quantum mechanics, and let me tell you, it's a wild ride. You've got these titans of science, like Heisenberg and Schrödinger, grappling with these mind-bending new ideas about the nature of reality. Competing theories are flying around, everyone's debating what it all means. It must have been incredibly exciting and utterly confusing at the same time.
It was a complete revolution in physics. The old deterministic view of the universe was crumbling, and these brilliant minds were trying to piece together a new understanding, a quantum understanding of how things work.
Exactly. On one side, you had Heisenberg with his matrix mechanics, which was super abstract, all about these arrays of numbers. And then you had Schrödinger with his wave mechanics, using these wave functions that seemed totally different. It was like looking at two completely different maps of the same city with different symbols, different scales, everything.
It was a massive puzzle,
Ah,
and everyone was trying to figure out how these seemingly incompatible approaches could both describe the quantum world.
and then entered John von Neumann. At just 23 years old, he drops a bombshell. He uses this tool from functional analysis Hilbert spaces to prove that those two seemingly contradictory approaches, matrix mechanics and wave mechanics, were actually mathematically equivalent.
It was a groundbreaking achievement. It's like if von Neumann found the Rosetta Stone that unlocked the language of quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
By applying the right mathematical framework, he revealed the underlying unity of these seemingly disparate theories. He showed that they were just different sides of the same coin.
It's mind-blowing. It's like he found a way to translate between two alien languages, proving they were actually saying the same thing all along. And this is just the beginning of von Neumann's incredible journey. We've seen how he revolutionized our understanding of quantum mechanics, but hold on tight, because next up, we're going to see how this theoretical math whiz ended up shaping the computers we use every single day. It's a wild ride, folks. Stay tuned. All right, so we left off with von Neumann dropping this bombshell on the quantum mechanics world.
Yeah, hard to top that.
Right. But the thing about von Neumann is he just kept going. Now we're going to see how this abstract math genius ends up shaping the computers we use every single day.
It's kind of funny, right?
Totally. How do you go from Hilbert spaces to building actual computers?
Well, it's a perfect example of von Neumann's ability to bridge this gap between, those abstract ideas and the real world.
Yeah.
Think about it. Computers used to be these massive machines.
Right, taking up entire rooms.
Exactly. Designed for very specific tasks. Not very flexible at all.
So basically, before von Neumann, computers were just giant calculators.
Pretty much. And von Neumann had this revolutionary idea. What if we store the data, A and D, the instructions for processing that data, in the same place?
That makes sense.
Yeah, it seems obvious now, but
Yeah, in hindsight.
back then, total game changer.
So that's how computers can multitask, run different programs,
Yeah.
all that stuff we just take for granted.
Exactly. This is the foundation of what we now call the von Neumann architecture.
Catchy name.
It's the basic blueprint for most modern computers.
That's wild. This fundamental part of our digital world comes from a mathematician who was also busy revolutionizing quantum physics.
It really highlights the power of abstract thinking. His deep understanding of logic and information allowed him to see the potential of computers in a way that few others could.
It's like he was playing a different game altogether.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, let's talk about another field von Neumann helped create. Game theory. I'll be honest. Sounds a bit intimidating at first.
I get that. It's all about strategic decision-making. It might seem abstract, but trust me, it's got applications everywhere. Economics, politics, even just everyday life.
Okay, break it down for me. What's the core idea here?
Think of any game you play. You've got options, your opponent has options, and the outcome depends on what you both choose to do.
Right, like chess?
Exactly. Game theory analyzes those choices.
Okay.
It figures out the best strategies for each player.
So it's not just about actual games, right? It's about any situation where people are trying to figure out their best move, anticipating what others will do.
You got it. And von Neumann's good contribution here, the minimax theorem. It's basically a mathematical way to find the best strategy when you're trying to minimize your worst-case scenario.
Okay, that makes sense. It's important, but can you give me a real-world example? Where does this minimax thing actually come into play?
All right, imagine you're a company launching a new product.
Okay.
You have to decide how much to spend on marketing, how to price it, knowing that your competitors are making similar decisions, right?
Right, it's a battle out there.
The minimax theorem helps you find the strategy that minimizes your potential losses, even if your competitors go all out against you. It's like having a mathematical safety net.
That's actually super helpful. It takes some of the guesswork out of those tough decisions.
Exactly. And that's just one example of how these seemingly abstract math concepts can have a real impact on our lives.
So we've got von Neumann, the quantum mechanic, von Neumann, the computer architect, von Neumann, the game theory guru. But remember how we started this whole thing talking about his love of fast cars?
Oh, yeah. It's such a fascinating side of him.
It really is. This brilliant mind grappling with the most complex ideas, also had this need for speed.
I know, right?
It's like those two sides of him, the intellectual and the visceral, somehow balanced each other out.
Makes you wonder if it's all connected somehow,
Hmm.
right? Like maybe his upbringing in Budapest, that mix of intellectual fervor and cultural dynamism shaped his personality.
It's a fascinating thought. It's like von Neumann was drawn to these extremes, whether it was pushing the limits of math or pushing the limits of speed on the open road.
It makes those initiatives like the Quantum Formalism Academy even more inspiring.
Right, making advanced math more accessible. It's like carrying the torch of von Neumann's work, trying to make these complex ideas understandable and exciting for everyone.
Absolutely. It's a great goal.
Speaking of making things clear, can you help me understand how von Neumann's work foreshadowed concepts like AI and robotics? You mentioned his involvement in automata theory, but I'm having trouble connecting the dots.
Okay, sure. So automata theory deals with these theoretical machines, right? They can perform calculations and make decisions based on inputs. Think of them like really simple prototypes for artificial intelligence.
So these theoretical machines in automata theory were like the ancestors of AI and robotics. It's amazing to think that these ideas were already brewing back then.
They really were. Von Neumann was thinking about things like self-replicating machines and the limits of computation decades before these topics entered mainstream science. It's like he was laying the groundwork for the digital revolution we're living through right now.
It's mind-blowing. It's clear that von Neumann's impact goes way beyond any single field. He was a true polymath, involved in everything from quantum mechanics to computer science to game theory. But what really sticks with me is how he brought all these different areas together.
That's what made him so unique. His ability to connect the dots, to see the bigger picture. He wasn't just brilliant in individual fields. He was brilliant at seeing how they all interconnected, how they could inform and enrich each other.
And he did all of this in just 53 years. It's hard to believe it.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what else he could have achieved if he had lived longer.
Imagine the contributions he could have made to fields like artificial intelligence or space exploration. They were just starting to take off during his lifetime.
It's a tantalizing thought. He was a true visionary, a pioneer who was always pushing the boundaries of human knowledge.
So for those of us who aren't quite on the von Neumann level of genius, what can we take away from his extraordinary life and work?
Well, I think there are some powerful lessons here for all of us. First, the importance of interdisciplinary thinking. Don't limit yourself to one narrow field. Explore different areas, look for connections, because often that's where the most exciting discoveries happen.
It makes sense, like von Neumann's own journey, from chemistry to math to physics to computer science, he was constantly drawing inspiration and insights from different domains.
Exactly. And another crucial lesson, the power of abstract thinking. Don't shy away from those complex ideas because they can often lead to the most profound, real-world applications.
Yeah, it's easy to dismiss abstract concepts as being too theoretical, too impractical. But as we've seen with von Neumann, those ideas can be the seeds for groundbreaking technologies and innovations.
Absolutely. And finally, I think there's a lesson here about embracing all of your interests and passions. Don't try to fit yourself into one neat little box. You can be a scientist, an artist, a mathematician, Andy, a musician, a logician, and a lover of fast cars. Embrace those seeming contradictions because they often reveal the richest parts of who we are.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and it perfectly captures the spirit of John von Neumann. A brilliant mind, boundless curiosity, and a passionate soul who left an incredible mark on the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
His story is a reminder the human potential is truly limitless. We can achieve incredible things when we dare to think big, to connect the dots, and to follow our passions wherever they lead.
Well, folks, this deep dive has been an incredible journey through the life and work of one of the most extraordinary minds of the 20th century. I hope it sparked your own curiosity, your own sense of wonder. Maybe you'll dive deeper into quantum mechanics, check out the Quantum Formalism Academy, or even just take a spin in a fast car, feel that wind in your hair.
The world is full of amazing things to discover. Just got to open your mind and embrace the joy of learning.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.